You're not single because the right person hasn't arrived. You're single because something in you doesn't want to be found. And the worst part? You call it peace. You tell people you enjoy your peace. And maybe you do, but there's peace. And then there's stillness that looks like peace. There's silence chosen in freedom, and silence chosen in self-defense. Most people cannot tell the difference from the inside. It feels identical. The mornings alone, the unbothered weekends, the clean apartment, the no-drama life. It feels earned. It feels evolved. You didn't fall in love with peace. You fell in love with not being disturbed. Because it's not that your life is calm. It's that nobody is close enough to disrupt it. But ask yourself this. When someone genuinely interesting enters your life, someone warm, someone with real depth, why does something in you immediately begin cataloging their flaws? Why does the comfort arrive faster when they disappoint you than when they impress you? That's not discernment. That's relief. Because if they're flawed enough, you don't have to let them in. And if you don't let them in, you stay safe. And if you stay safe, you stay alone. And alone has become so familiar that your nervous system reads it as home. This is the illusion. Not that you enjoy your peace, but that peace and avoidance feel exactly the same in the body. You're not protecting your standards. You're protecting your wounds. You didn't arrive here consciously. Nobody sits down at 14, 15, 20 years old and decides, I will never let anyone fully know me. That's not how it works. What happened was quieter than that, more systematic, more invisible. Maybe someone you trusted used your vulnerability against you, said something in the middle of a fight that they had no right to know, something you'd told them in the dark when you thought it was safe, and something in you understood, at a cellular level, what I reveal can become a weapon. Maybe you grew up watching love perform itself. Two people staying together not out of warmth, but out of habit, obligation, or silent warfare. And somewhere in the architecture of your childhood, love and suffering got wired into the same circuit. So love that comes too easily feels suspicious, and love that costs something feels familiar. Maybe you were the kid who felt everything and was told that was the problem, who cried and was called sensitive, who spoke and was talked over, who expressed something real and watched the room go uncomfortable. So you learned to edit yourself, to offer people the version of you that doesn't inconvenience anyone. You learned very early that being open doesn't always lead to being held. Sometimes it leads to being used. So you stopped being open, slowly, strategically, without even noticing. You didn't break, you adapted, and the adaptation became the cage. Your mind did exactly what it was designed to do. It learned from pain and built a system to prevent its repetition. The tragedy is that the system cannot tell the difference between a threat and a possibility. It treats both the same. It guards against both with the same vigilance. And you wonder why connection never gets through. You have standards. That's real. Don't let anyone strip that from you. But when is the last time someone met every single one of them? Not most of them. Every single one. The way they speak, the way they carry ambition, the way they hold their past without letting it consume them, the way they don't need you but want you. The list. The specific, unspoken, constantly revised list. Here is something worth sitting with. Perfection is the most elegant form of avoidance ever invented. Because if no one is ever quite right, you never have to take the risk of being wrong. And here's what makes this uncomfortable. You don't look for reasons to stay. You look for reasons to leave. And you are very, very good at finding them. A single sentence said the wrong way. A text that took too long. A small incompatibility inflated into a fundamental flaw. You're not imagining these things, but you are choosing how much weight to give them. The question isn't whether you have standards. The question is whether your standards are calibrated to find love or to avoid it. There's a version of selectivity that comes from genuine self-knowledge, and there's a version that comes from having been burned so many times that your unconscious mind has quietly decided it would rather be right about people being disappointing than be surprised. You've rejected people who weren't wrong. You've called intuition what was actually fear wearing a sophisticated mask. And afterward, there's a specific feeling you don't examine too closely. Not regret exactly. More like relief dressed up as clarity. Here's what love actually asks of you. Not roses and grand gestures. Something far more threatening than that. It asks you to stop knowing how you're going to feel tomorrow. Right now, you know yourself. You know your moods, your triggers, your rhythms, your Saturday mornings, your bad weeks. You are a predictable system to yourself, and that predictability is your safety. Nobody can destabilize what you already understand. Love destroys that. Not violently, not all at once, but slowly. Intimacy makes you legible to another person. They begin to see patterns you don't see in yourself. They know when something is wrong before you've admitted it. They hold a version of you that you cannot control, cannot edit, cannot perform for. You don't fear love ending. You fear what it will turn you into while it's happening. That's the real threat. Not heartbreak, not loss, but the terrifying possibility of becoming someone who needs, someone who checks the phone, someone who feels too much on a Tuesday for no reason except that another person exists and matters. You built yourself to be unreachable, and you wear it well. But unreachable is not strength. Unreachable is just loneliness with better posture. There are nights you don't talk about, not dramatic nights, not crisis nights, the ordinary ones, the ones where you're lying in the dark, completely fine by every measurable standard, safe, fed, healthy, stable, and something in your chest feels like a room nobody enters anymore. You go through the motions, you send the memes, you show up to the dinners and the group chats, you say the right things, you even laugh. Real laughs, not performed ones. But somewhere beneath the conversation, there's a layer nobody reaches. You've mastered being present without ever being fully there. People talk to you every day, but nobody is actually talking to you. The real you, the one underneath the composed surface, the one with the hunger and the fear and the 2 a.m. thoughts that don't make it into any conversation. And the cruelest part of this is that you've made peace with it. Being unseen has started to feel like privacy. The gap between who you show people and who you actually are has become so normal that you've stopped noticing it as a gap. You are surrounded by people who would say they know you, and you let them believe that, because correcting them would require showing them the distance, and showing them the distance would require explaining why it exists, and explaining why it exists would mean standing in it yourself. So you keep the conversation surface level, not because you're shallow, because depth costs something. And you are still calculating whether you can afford it. Let me be clear about something. Not everything here applies to you. And I'm not speaking for everyone. Some of you are healing with intention, deliberately, bravely choosing solitude as a site of reconstruction, not escape. You know the difference between recovering and hiding. You're honest with yourself about which one is happening. That honesty is its own kind of courage. Some of you genuinely value independence in ways that are whole and healthy and chosen. Solitude is not always a symptom. Sometimes it is a temperament, a season, a preference that deserves no diagnosis. Some of you have done the work, have examined the walls and chosen to keep some of them, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. If this doesn't feel like you, then it isn't you, and that matters. This is not an indictment. This is a mirror. And mirrors don't tell you what to do. They only show you what's there. So here's what I want to leave you with. You say you're single, and that's true, technically. But singleness is just the external description. The real story, the one happening underneath, is that you are in a very committed relationship, with safety, with control, with the version of yourself that nobody can touch. And that relationship is real. It has a history. It has a logic. It has kept you together during moments when another person might have broken you apart. Don't be ashamed of it. But also, don't confuse it for freedom. Because the most locked door in your life right now isn't one someone else closed. You built it. You hold the key. And some part of you, the part that hasn't given up completely, is still standing on the other side of it, wondering if tonight is the night you finally open it. And if you're honest with yourself, you already know why you haven't.